I wasted 1,000 hours last year doing work a simple system could have done in 30 seconds. And I'm guessing you're doing the same thing right now. You know systems would help, but you're comfortable just getting through the day. The comfort is costing you your freedom. In the next 4 minutes, I'm going to show you why systems are the most unfair advantage in business and the exact 5 processes to build one that runs while you're sleeping. This isn't theory. I'll show you the real systems that turn 15 hours of work into 30 minutes of setup. The real cost of systems isn't always evident. You think you're being productive, but you're really just busy. Last year alone, I spent over 2 hours a day on prospecting. That's over 500 hours a year. I spent over an hour on manual follow-ups with people that reaching out, and that's over 250 hours a year. And then I would spend time on admin work, billing, and accounting more than an hour a day. That's another 250 hours per year. Not to mention the amount of time that I'd spend just in my inbox going back and forth with email communications. The reason why you haven't built systems is not necessarily because they're hard, because sometimes just doing it yourself seems easier and better. You know, you're in control of the quality and you're comfortable with the work that's being done, but that is really holding you back. At $100 an hour, that's over $100,000 last year that I left on the table that I could have leveraged back into my business and grown it. Okay, so what is a system exactly? And I'm gonna use some samples from my personal life and from my business life. In personal life, a few of these I've implemented recently. One of them is super easy, it's just auto bill. It's going in from manual paying bills to automatically paying them. There's one bill that I cannot figure out how to automate, and it's so annoying because it takes me 15 to 20 minutes per month to pay that single bill. Another one I implemented recently was using a meal prep company. Now I hesitated because I'm on a pretty strict diet, and it took me some time to find a system or find a person that I could trust to provide food that was good for me and actually healthy and help me hit my macro goals. So meal prep and auto bill. Now in business, this could be things like prospecting versus using a database or using a virtual assistant versus manually processing it. And for email management, it could be a flooded inbox versus using AI and automation to automatically unsubscribe, to draft replies for you, and to clean up your inbox as much as possible. Or in sales, we're using a CRM versus a spreadsheet. Now, all of these are simple systems that implemented into your business can save a lot of time, but not only that, improve quality and get you the results you're looking for faster. All right, so we've covered the hierarchy of systems, but how do you actually build a system in your business and how do you know where to start? Now, this is simpler than you might think. In this process, what we want to do is use a time study. So you want to create a time study of what you're doing every single day. I'd say for your first week, you just learn what you're doing. Same thing in that meal prep example. If you're into fitness, typically before you start a diet, you track exactly what you're eating for the previous week so you can start learning and building on that so you can make those small improvements to get closer to your goal. Now, I do have an example of a time study, and this is a free thing that you can grab down below, but this is just a really simple thing. All you're doing here is tracking your actual time, what project you're working on, what kind of category is it in, and then any notes you have about that. And what you're looking for is trends. And we're gonna show you what to do with this time study in the next step, but it's just really important to truly understand what you're doing. And going back to that fitness example, it is the exact same thing. When I started Trainer, they said eat exactly what you're eating, but just start tracking it all. And that is the baseline to building a system that is scalable for you to grow and start saving time in your business. Now in step 2, we want to document the steps that you're taking. So go through your time study and pick out the biggest time suck. What either do you just not want to do, what's taking up the most time, or what do you think is going to be the easiest to offload to somebody else or automate or eliminate? Now that we picked that process, we need to document exactly what we're doing. So don't try to improve it. Don't try to change it. Now for the next day, as you're doing it, or even a few days, write down every single thing you're doing and making a detailed instruction or in a standard operating procedure, which we'll explain later. Now, for that individual process you picked, you want to go deeper into that. You want to look at that process and see, is there anything I can eliminate? Was there a step that was unnecessary? Was I entering data into 2 places that aren't really being used? Is everything in that system actually useful in growing our business and scaling it in a meaningful way? I know in my business, sometimes we build old systems or I do things that have a lot of steps that might not be necessary, and I can just completely eliminate them as we transition to newer documents or newer software in kind of throughout the history of the business. Things do change. So before I actually start handing this off or looking to do something, I really want to see what I can eliminate. Now, in the next step, we're going to really focus on automation. Before we give this to someone, we want to see what can I automate. And a good example of this is an onboarding process. Now, a lot of an onboarding process can be automated. So from someone actually signing up and paying, you can use an automated system where they go through and they pay, they sign up the terms of service, and then they fill out their onboarding form. And then when they fill out that onboarding form, it can automatically go into the CRM and a project management software, as well as notify any key stakeholders who need to take action with that new hire or that new person getting started. So eliminate and automate are the first two things you want to do before you look at our step, which is step number 5, and that's delegate. Now, in a lot of cases, delegate can be one of the harder things to do because you have to hire and then you have to trust that person to do that task, and you have to make sure that you give clear instructions on how they can do that. So I do have 2 free sample SOPs for you. One is a daily SOP and the other is a process-based SOP. And these really help you not only bring on employees that you can delegate to, but that they know exactly what they need to do to make this process more successful and have higher quality than you could do because you don't have the time or attention to spend building it. Now, this daily SOP is one of the keys to my success when it comes to hiring new people. It is extremely valuable. And when I worked for Eaton, a Fortune 500 company, this is one of the key things I did for them was as we were documenting processes, we'd build daily SOPs for every team member in the company, getting us closer to that continuous improvement and lean company that we wanted to be. So here's the example, and this is basically, we want to include things like overview of the role, what is the actual role, and then why are we doing that role? Why is it important to them? Why is it important to the company? What's the impact? But then how does that person be successful in that role? So that's your quota, those are your goals, those are things that are allowing you to show I'm doing a good job, and you can point back to something. Now you'll see some other nuances here like document number, and that's so we can have a master file and track all this very clearly. If you want to see exactly how I do that, you can see it in the Founder System AI course down below. But the next thing in here is priority. So priority is also very critical because you want people to know what is more important to you for them to start with. For a billing admin, is it following up on failed payments? Is it collecting new payments? Is it reminding clients of payments? Is it auditing? Where do they start their day? So if they have a busy day or we have meetings, what actually has to happen that day so that they are successful? And then if there's something that they couldn't do, what can they grab and finish the next day? Now that's priority. Obviously daily tasks is just outlining it. Notes are giving more detail on that. How much time should it take is also another important thing that kind of works with priority, because someone could do something very, very well and it might be priority 1, but they're spending 8 hours a day on this when obviously they only have 8 or 9 hours to work and they're not doing anything else, where yes, it was priority number 1, but you only thought it was going to take them an hour. So that's a lapse in training and understanding that as a manager, you need this tool to go back and say, hey, I noticed these things aren't being done, and you can have that conversation and reset those expectations. Even though this is priority 1, it should really be limited to this amount of work. And I see this a lot with designers. They'll build this beautiful graphic and they'll build one, it might take them an entire week, but you sell graphics and you need 1 hour. And so there's just a misunderstanding on how much time they can put into the quality of that product. The next thing here is their skill set. So how comfortable are they in doing this? Now, a lot of times when I hire someone, a lot of them will come in at 5s on everything or 4s. And my goal is to get them to a 7, 8, 9, where they really understand what they're doing, what that task is. And then finally, notes. This is something I use a lot with new hires, is they're allowed to basically every single day or every single week when we do a one-on-one, they'll provide their notes on what they were doing, what they don't understand, and they can ask questions based on the SOP. And this adds so much value and helps them really be successful, especially getting what you want them to do onto paper. And that way, they're never confused on what their expectations are. In this next step, we have that goal setting. So this is a sample from my sales team, and it's just tracking their numbers for them every single month. So we can see if they're having success, maybe they have a slow month, but the last 3 months they killed it. We can see all of that at a bird's eye view, and they know without me having to go talk to them if they're being successful based on the metrics we've set for them. In the next tab, I have onboarding steps. This is who they should interview. It usually links to videos. We use a whole university to bring people on, but this can help link to SOPs. They can link to the HR manager to go over specific onboarding, the COO to go over operations, any little nuance you want there. And I do have this for free down below. And the last piece of this is just expertise, softwares that they need to know, processes that they really need to become good at to be successful in their role. Now, the next piece of this is that actual process-based SOP. This is going a lot deeper into what that job role is gonna be. So for example, we brought on a billing admin to save me a whole bunch of time, and then they built out a daily SOP of all the tasks they needed. But then this process-based SOP explains the task or process in more detail. A lot of times I'll include a Loom video or a training to go with this, and then I'll list out step by step every single thing that needs to happen, the why we're happening, an overview, which we use a lot for AI, and we're just being as clear and as detailed as possible. And this might seem like overkill when you have one hire coming on, but the thing is, if my billing admin decides to quit and I don't have anyone that's already trained, I can then bring someone in very quickly without rebuilding this. So I've systematized every piece of this to allow me to scale and allow me to step away and be more of an owner in my business. Now again, this is another one where we have the exact template for you. You can grab it down below just by subscribing. But again, we're doing overview, we're doing purpose, we're doing the scope. We're explaining as much as possible to this person, and then we're actually going in and giving every single thing. And you'll see some more details like revisions and all of that. And these are just to make sure that we have the most up-to-date, they're being trained on the right one. And again, my background as an engineer, this comes from ISO certification, which multi-billion dollar companies do. And if it's good enough for them, it's probably good enough for you, and implementing it will allow you to systemize again and scale and have that unfair advantage that most businesses do not have. Now that we've gone over some of the tools, I just want to go over another system that I was able to implement, and I went from 10 full-time business development representatives paying over $500,000 a year to 2 VAs paying $4,000 a month. So I saved a massive amount of money, and I did that through systemizing our outbound marketing. So instead of doing cold calling and manual prospecting and manual emailing, we did some numbers and realized that we could use a tool called Instantly AI, which I have an affiliate link down below. But we used this tool and we were able to automate our outbound efforts. And then we used tools like Apollo and Clay to enrich data and basically send cold emails to grow our business. But instead of having 10 people, we could do it with 2 people overseas and save us a whole bunch of money. And we actually were able to double our results quickly and save literally ungodly amount of money. So simple systems like this are hugely valuable for your business. Now, I run a B2B business, so email marketing works really well, but I have seen email marketing work well for every business because you can always find a creative way to do this, whether you're looking for partnerships, whether you're looking for influencers, whether you're looking to hire new talent, whether you're just trying to reach out to suppliers. There's a lot of ways you can implement business and look at what is your team manually doing and how do I automate that to make it scalable. Remember those 1,000 hours I wasted? I got 800 of them back by building just 3 systems. That's 20 extra work weeks per year or 5 months of vacation if I wanted it. Systems aren't just for productivity nerds. They're the unfair advantage that lets small teams beat big companies. Stop trading your time for tasks. Start building leverage today. Make sure to subscribe if you want the blueprints for systemizing everything in your business and life, and make sure to grab the free templates down below. If you need more support on exactly how to implement these, check out the course Founder Systems AI down below. And if you're not sure exactly where to start, pick one task that you have to do today and that you know you have to do tomorrow, document it, and build it into a system tonight.